Hey there, it's Ryan Reynolds, and you are listening to Fearless in Devotion, the absolute worst podcast in all of football history. Go get them, guys.
Here they come, a mighty champions, raise your voices.
Croeso all, welcome back to Fearless in Devotion with Liam, Tim and me, Rhys. We are the Wrexham AFC podcast, sponsored, as you should know by now, by the Fat Boar Bar and Restaurant. Fabulous establishment. Do go there. Plenty to discuss today. Fixtures are coming out this week, which is very exciting. Maybe a little mini pod for you in the week. Who knows? We've got more transfer gossip for you, including Paul Mullin, and more chat about Welcome to Wrexham, of course. But first, viewers on YouTube will have noticed that Andy isn't here this week, but he is here in spirit, because you can see that he's been replaced somewhere, I don't know where, somewhere, by that damn barcode, which links you to his damn newsletter, Wrexham on the Game. Tim, as his fellow writer on that, tell us in just one sentence why people should scan that barcode. What do they get?
They get an awful lot of words. They get an awful lot of tidbits of information that you might not actually see or have heard elsewhere, including the whereabouts of where Jordan Davis may have been training recently, which is a little tidbit which goes in this week's, for example. So yeah, it's just basically fills the void left behind by the fanzine on a more regular basis. Lots of pithy humour, and Gilpin has left it up to me for this week and next week because he's currently, as we've just seen prior to this recording, hanging around on couches naked, or at least what we think is at least half naked.
He was wearing boxers.
He claimed he wasn't drunk, but I've never seen him that happy in years. So
no, not since the famous white wine episode of a couple of weeks ago.
Yes.
Yes, he's in Laos, which I always thought was pronounced Laos, but apparently it's pronounced Lao. So he's there on holiday. So Andy, we hope you're having a wonderful time. If you listen to the podcast, get a life, get outside, and you're on holiday. While we're on housekeeping, though, I delved into our YouTube stats this week. Amazing detail you can get on there. And I discovered that of last weekend's podcast watched on here on YouTube, 49.6% of the audience haven't yet subscribed to this channel. So if one of those people is you know what to do. And if not, I've got all your addresses through YouTube Analytics as well. So just think on that. Right, the big news this week is a big new signing. Liam, tell us all that we know about Ryan Hardie.
Well, this is your life, Ryan Hardie. Let's go. So Ryan Hardie, striker, age 28, joined us from Plymouth for an undisclosed fee, but most people are reporting that it's believed to be around the 700k mark. Now, that strikes me as an absolute snip, because I think when we were initially linked with him in January, he was valued at a similar price to Sam Smith, around 2 million, but supposedly there was a clause related to them being relegated, which meant he was available for less. So Parky, as he is the wily devil, he kept to his man and he got him eventually. So yeah, he's hit double figures in the Championship for the last 2 seasons in a row. 10 last season in what was, a pretty tough team, I would imagine, to get goals for Plymouth, because they ended up getting relegated, and 12 the season before that. Also got double figures in League One the previous 2 seasons with Plymouth, so pretty consistent performer. One thing Parky's mentioned heading into this summer is that he wants players that are quick and athletic, and Hardie very much fits that bill, makes decent runs in behind defenders. He's described as a number 9, so sort of think similar to Ollie Palmer, but interestingly, he did play as a number 10, slightly behind the striker as well last season. So I think one thing Parky did as the season went on is that he changed the formation up a bit, where Rodriguez was sitting in just a little bit behind Sam Smith. So I wouldn't be surprised if that's the role that he's brought in to play. So yeah, I think everyone's pretty excited by that signing. He was just a bit more background. He was in at Rangers as a youngster, spent time on loan with a few clubs there, then joined Blackpool in 2019 before Plymouth. But good one to get the window off to. Pretty exciting one to start with.
Tim, what are your thoughts? We've struck relatively early in the window, earlier than usual, perhaps.
What are the odds of that? I mean, I feel like maybe that's kind of been in the offing for a while. Maybe that's been something that's looked at a lot earlier than what we might have imagined. But I'm one of these people that I don't tend to take a great deal of notice about other football teams, other football clubs, other than my own, realistically. But he is one of those players that I had heard of quite a lot in terms of what he was doing at Plymouth. Obviously held in high regard down there, spent 5 years there. So he leaves with a lot of good grace that you'd be hard pressed to find any Plymouth fan that had anything really bad about him. You know, kind of through gritted teeth. Obviously, the disappointment was pretty evident, but that they could see the reasons why he's gone, and obviously, yes, they probably would have wanted a lot more than what they've got. But I like the look of him. I think maybe there's a different approach on the attacking output next season. If we're assuming that him and Smith are like the preferred two at this juncture, there's a lot more mobility about them. There's a lot more speed about them. He keeps on saying, Hardie, that he likes to kind of run in behind. That's all he kept saying is he like to run in behind, like to run. He basically chase Chris Packets down the street kind of thing. We'll chase long balls, hopeless lost causes. And maybe it sounds a bit unfair, maybe it is, but that sounds very, very like, the man we're going to be talking about very shortly in terms of a potential outgoing, in terms of what you want from a player, wholehearted, gives his all, and wants to become part of something special, which we hope it continues to be. But I'm excited by him. I think he's had that. People are saying, well, he's a kind of like lower to mid tier signing for us, etc. But I think for the price tag, the alleged price tag, the fact that we're getting him now as he's approaching the prime of his career, I think it's great business. I think it's a very, very astute signing. I think he is going to get us double figures again, similar to previous seasons for Plymouth.
Well, you've alluded to it, Tim, what we're going to discuss now, which is, does his arrival make things more difficult for that chap, Paul Mullin? Lots of comments on last week's video. Many people felt that perhaps we'd overinterpreted some of what Paul had said in the Welcome to Wrexham episode. I'll just read out some of the comments here. Thank you for all your comments. We really appreciate you letting us know what you think. We have one from Logan Leroy, who said, as someone that was an athlete and had to deal with falling in and out of favour for the starting lineup, I thought Mullin's statement was very fair. That's exactly how it feels not to be chosen. Gerald Wilson said, I love you guys. If this is what you took away from that episode, you're sadly making a huge mistake. Mullin was open, honest, and clear. So was Palmer. The episode was about resilience and perseverance. Mullin will be fine regardless of what happens. The man is class and knows what's important. Another one from Daniel Brown. Key language Mullin used was I feel. It only becomes an issue when it becomes I will do. Extra caution needs to be used because he was effectively talking to his therapist. So yeah, lots of strong opinions about last week, but I think, Tim, you were alluding to it there. Ryan Hardie's arrival, it sounds like he could be playing a sort of Mullin type role that we've got used to. Hard runner, goal scorer. Does this shorten the odds on him leaving?
Yes, vastly. I mean, it's quite funny the comments, all fair comments from last week. We psychoanalyze those comments, and everybody else has maybe psychoanalyzed them as well. I don't know, but it's kind of like there's like a romantic notion surrounding Mullin because he's part of the docu-series, and he's a huge, like, he is the common denominator in our rise up the pyramid. There's no doubt about it. But what you really got to be careful of here is it's one thing what we want, it's very much another what he wants, right? And I know he'd love to have a crack at the Championship, and I know he'd love to be playing in Wrexham shit again. But ultimately, when he's 30 now, it's been stop-start the last 12 months for him. He needs to play first-team football, and it looks like he's going to go and get it, which we'll come to in a minute. It looks like he's going to go and get it. If he goes and he does well, and he does a kind of Sam Dalby's situation is different. Sam Dalby was going to try and find his feet somewhere, kind of start that legacy of being a really, really solid player. Whereas Mullin's already done that, cemented that. So it's a different dynamic. But if he does go, which looks highly, highly likely, on loan and does well, he's going to ask questions. But I still think it'll be some comeback and some hell of another story if he does manage to to get back into this Wrexham team. We all would love to see it. We know that,
Yes.
but I'm at the point now that maybe that the 4 months of him not being in the team allowed that kind of separation, I guess, that disconnect. Maybe. I mean, I'm an emotional person, but I'm not feeling half as bad as I thought I might have done about it. And that's not me being like, I mean, being emotionally blind to it all. I just genuinely think that what's important for him is the most important thing now. And if it means going out and playing and proving everybody wrong, great.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about Paul Mullin leaving until that happens, if that makes sense. Because and let's be clear, Liam, the rumours are, aren't they, that it's a loan deal that we're potentially looking at, but obviously nothing's confirmed yet.
Yeah, rumours that it'd be a season-long loan to Wigan, but with potential to call him back in January, as most of these deals tend to have. There was something Alan Nixon, the transfer journalist, posted today, apparently saying that talks are in an advanced stage. They're just Mullins trying to negotiate some sort of payment from us. I don't know what that would be in relation to, but it sounds everyone's expecting it to happen, and everyone's expecting it to happen probably this week if it does. I think the one positive about getting these things done early, whether it's incomings or outgoings, is it just allows us to focus on the season ahead rather than a protracted deal where does he go, is he going or is he not. I don't think it would help the club if it stretched on too long throughout the summer.
No.
I
And
just think, like I said, it could become a bit of a sideshow, and supposedly the Wigan thing's supposed to be announced on Monday by all accounts. And yeah, it's a weird situation, isn't it? It is weird for everybody, for all involved. But like you said, he just needs to go out and get games. And interestingly, that deal supposedly says no option to buy. So interesting that, because it's like, well, he's got 2 years left on his deal. If he does do well and goes there, is it just a case of we think somebody else better than Wigan should buy him? It's a bit of a odd one.
we or the other way of looking at this is that the management team are in agreement that Paul needs game time, and they can't promise it to him in these next few months. And so he goes, right, well, I'm going to go out and get game time, but I still see my future at Wrexham. And they might think, yeah, we still think you could do a job here. That's what we're all hoping, I think. I think we're all willing him to do well, and I really hope he goes out and bangs something for Wigan, and we can call him back in January for the second half of the season. There's some more potential deals going on this week, aren't there? Will Boyle to Shrewsbury, Tim?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. I would assume that would be a permanent, because I mean he's not really featured hardly featured in the parky at all, to be perfectly honest. So, and then
Cracking red
again,
card at MK Dons.
yeah, and he's had some great hair, appeared from somewhere, got married recently, so he's getting all of his ducks in a row basically. And why not? I mean, if he does go to Shrewsbury, out of all the clubs you'd want to pick, it wouldn't be them. But it is a very good signing for him, whichever way you look at it.
Yeah.
It's a good signing for whoever, from League One downwards. Because he was playing at a high level for a reason at the time. He was at Wigan, wasn't he, when he came to us? So
Did he get red carded at Newport as well? Do I remember that? He did,
Newport. Did he get sent off from MK Dons? He did, yeah.
didn't he? He did second yellow MK Dons, wasn't it?
Yeah,
And the Newport one
Newport was a straight red for a
straight
high
red. There for that. That was great.
But yeah, I mean, it's one of those. Look, I think if you ask 10 Wrexham fans to write a list of players you expect to leave, he would be on 9 out of 10 of those lists. And that's not a reflection on him. It's just a reflection of the defenders we've started to stockpile that are of a better quality.
And yeah, how quickly we're moving as well. And as Liam says, good that we're getting a lot of this business done early doors, which is a bit of a change to usual, to be fair, certainly with the incoming. So, right, let's move away from the football, because we've got more stuff on Randall's Roundup later on in the podcast. But for now, let's talk about the penultimate episode of season 4 of Welcome to Wrexham, which was called Life or Death. Liam, what did you make of it?
Yeah, another really good episode. I think they've all been pretty strong this series. It gets you straight into the action where you're shown, straight from the offset, the medical emergency that happened at Wycombe, which we now know to have been a fan called Maurice Jones. And yeah, it's weird. It happened relatively recently, but I forgot so much about that game, the Wycombe game. It's strange how you forget it so easily. Like, so yeah, just watching it back, because I remember when it happened at the time, just being watching the TV and everyone's like, "What the hell's going on? Yeah, why is there this massive delay?" But it was nice that they actually managed to track down his family and speak to them a bit about what happened, because his daughter was out in New York, and it must have been, terrifying for her as the realization gradually dawned on her. And the way I think it's also commendable, the way the players sort of dealt with it as well. Just getting on with the game, but also I think it was in the back of their minds, but they still managed to get the win. So that was a good one. Just trying to remember what other narrative threads there were in the episode.
James McLean. I mean, Tim.
Yeah.
That idea. I think the focus of the episode wasn't there. Is that there's more to life than football, basically, and family comes first, and all this stuff that happens off the pitch. So often, us fans are oblivious to it, and
Yeah.
sometimes the humanity can get lost a little bit, can't it?
Yeah, and I think this episode, it kind of encapsulates to me how empathetic the documentary crew are when they're approaching these stories, because Maurice Jones's family didn't have to tell that story. It's an intensely private thing to discuss, but they use that platform to kind of advertise CPR and how important it is, and so on and so forth. So they use that platform for good. So brilliant from them. And then James McLean, Mr. Indestructible, everything bounces off him, etc., etc. So for him to really share that story, and obviously Erin as well, it was interesting. It wasn't a long segment, but it was powerful. It's like, look, yes, it was a high powered car, but that's not to say he was driving dangerously. There's nothing to suggest that. The fog was thick that day. I remember it well myself. And yeah, the fact that he came out of that with a couple of cuts and bruises is crazy. And the fact that he was just like, well, I'm ready to train, which is mad. It is mad, because I think it was a couple of weeks earlier, Elliot Lee had a crash as well.
Yeah.
And yeah, all these things, you think, is these things happening to kind of, is this going to derail our season? We're going to start losing key players to sort of stuff that's happening off the pitch, and really unfortunate things. But I thought it was really, really interesting episode. And these three back to back episodes, see what I did there. These three episodes have been, pound for pound, probably some of the best storytelling from a supposed sports documentary I've ever witnessed. And I know we're biased. But how can you not enjoy it? How can you not? Because everybody empathizes with it, and everybody can identify with somebody that's telling that story. I know somebody who's going through that, or I know somebody who's been through that. And that is the beauty of how it's delivered time after time after time.
There was a nice segment on the academy as well, wasn't there? On young Bryn Owen. So sort of good to see, I suppose, at long last. When I say at long last, I mean after 20 years of feeling like, well, we didn't have an academy. To see those foundations going in, Liam, is great.
Yeah, definitely. And it was nice to see as well his friend with Harry Ashfield. I think they made the point, didn't they, that they were the sort of the main two local lads. And what's been nice about this season just gone was seeing Harry Ashfield, albeit, briefly, but come into the team for a bit. Looked really good when he came on, and he also seemed to grow into his skin a bit. There was those videos of him in the Fat Boar after promotion, singing songs about Chester. So just to have that in the dressing room, I mean, everyone who plays for Wrexham knows what it means. We've seen players come from outside the area and they get it. Paul Mullin gets it. Ollie Palmer gets it, etc. But I think there is something special as well about having those homegrown players back in the team. Tim has mentioned quite a few times about having Welsh players in the team. So
Danny Ward.
yeah, well, yeah, you don't start that debate again.
Here he goes. I thought that comment from Bryn about him and Harry only being the two locally born players, quite a sad indictment of where the club kind of still maybe are, in terms, because we don't really know a lot about the academy in terms of who's there, who's locally born, who's from outside the area. So yeah, we kind of miss you miss those moments, don't you? You sort of Jordans and stuff like that. I know there's been a lot of talk of can Max play for Wales? Unfortunately, he can't. But that's the way it is. But yeah, hopefully this is like we're way ahead where we should be, on the pitch, and so it's one of those things. I think it will come good, and we will start producing players for Wales again because it's important. It might not be as important as other aspects at this moment in time, but it's still important for the general appeal of the club, I think.
Yeah, definitely. Well, and arguably for Wales as well,
Massive.
it's more important now than it would have been because of Cardiff's demotion as well. So relegation. Why was it demotion? What? Who uses that?
See, that's the Swansea in you there. That was the Swansea.
Is it really?
Yeah,
it must be.
Demotion.
Demotion. Yeah, wow.
Fearless in demotion.
Fearless in demotion. Nice little tribute to Del Morgan as well. Super Del Morgan in goal, who obviously retired at the end of this season. So wish all the best to her. Any more comments on Welcome to Wrexham?
I don't think Del needed subtitles. That was weird. I thought that was a bit odd. And yeah, Steve Dale. Swearing doesn't suit Steve Dale. It suits Parky.
Yeah.
Doesn't suit Steve Dale.
Yep. No offense to Steve. But...
No offense, Steve. You're a really nice guy, but yeah, it's like a different. Hearing Parky swear and hearing Steve Dale swear with the girls huddled in a circle just hits very differently.
Okay, good to know. Let us know what you think. Does Steve Dale look good swearing or not? Let us know in the comments. But anyway, that's it for part one of Fearless in Devotion. We'll take a short break now and we'll see you in a moment or two. Welcome back to Fearless in Devotion. It is time now for the Randall Roundup. Liam, what have you got for us this week?
Well, I'm very sad that Andy Gilpin's not going to ruin the start of my segment this week by playing his phone down the mic.
Let him move it.
That'll do instead. That'll do. So yeah, transfer. It's all a bit of a transfer theme again this week. So Mr. Drone has been up again on Friday morning, and as is now the customary thing, this sets the hairs running because he says there's 2 players been seen in the building. We don't know any names for certain yet, but one name which did crop up, because I think someone said they came in at around 9 a.m. One name which cropped up almost instantly around then was Owen Beck from Liverpool, who is a young left back, or in our system would be a left wing back. So he's 22. Spent last season out on loan at Blackburn, where he played really well, became their first choice left back. Played 26 times, but hamstring injury ended his season early. Doesn't look like there's a route into the Liverpool first team for him at the moment. Obviously they're looking at bringing. I think you've still got Andy Robertson at the moment. They're looking to bring in. Was it Kirkes? I think. Someone in that similar position. So there's not really a route for him into the Liverpool team. And it looks like this would be a loan deal, which for us, relatively uncharted waters, other than obviously Arthur Okonkwo, although Parky has made it clear that he will be looking for that this time. I think it's also interesting in terms of a few people that I've spoken to about this said, well, what does that mean for James McLean? Which, is quite an interesting point. Would he play? Do we expect James to play every game this season? It's a tricky.
It's gotta be a tough ask, isn't it? I mean,
yeah,
it's gotta be.
Yeah, I mean, Andy Gilpin doesn't want to see him play.
No, of course.
So there is that.
And you forgot the most important thing about Owen Beck. Judging on our conversation earlier, he's from Wrexham.
He's from he's a Welsh boy as well. So
he's also the great nephew of former Wrexham failure Ian Rush.
Is he?
Wow.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Sorry, Ian.
That's well harsh.
It's true.
Yeah, fair enough.
True.
But I'm quite excited to see us, looking at, regardless of whether this one comes off, that sort of option to me is quite appealing, particularly when he's already had such a positive loan spell in the Championship.
Yeah, well, and I don't know a huge amount about the Championship in terms of every club. My hometown club, Swansea, what I know is that they have built season after season on loan deals, several of them. Now, to the extent where their fans are getting quite frustrated that they only seem to get loan deals in. But some of them have been, brilliant and have really sustained them over the course of a season. You get youngsters from the Premier League in. I mean, who have they had? They had Conor Gallagher, before he sort of started at Chelsea, really kicked on at Chelsea. They had Ryan Brewster for a while, who scored 15 goals for them. So smart use of the loan market from Premier League clubs can really pay dividends in the Championship, I think.
Yeah, it's going to play more into things, and I think it almost has to once we go into the Championship. Not every player we can go out and spend big money on. We've got to supplement the squad somehow, and that seems like the perfect way to do it. And you forget now, we've got all these Premier League clubs right on our doorstep. Liverpool's, Man United, Man City, etc., etc. So purely from a locality perspective, I'd suggest we're in an ideal location. So long may that continue. Then just on another transfer rumour, so Sheffield Wednesday captain Barry Bannon, former Scotland international midfielder, his contract is up at the end of this month. As anyone's probably noticed, Sheffield Wednesday are in pretty much a dire situation off the pitch at the moment with players not being paid. They're also under a transfer embargo for that reason. They can sign players on free, but they can't pay money for players for the next couple of windows. So the rumor is that we're looking to take advantage of this situation by signing Barry Bannon. Now, I mean, he's been there a long time at Sheffield Wednesday, and you'd imagine he might not necessarily want to uproot himself, but again, at the same time, he's probably got, like everyone else, he's got a family to feed, etc. So could be. I mean, from what Sheffield Wednesday fans have said, they'd be gutted to lose him. I think they'd probably be especially gutted to lose him to us. So yeah, that's the sort of quality of the players we're being linked to. I haven't seen too many yet where I've just thought straight out no or anything like that.
I think we'll be happy with both of those, wouldn't we, Tim? They sound like two pretty shrewd signings if they come off.
Yeah, there's something about Barry Bannon I really don't like, but
What?
he signs for us. Yeah, I don't know. It just gets up my nose a bit. I don't know what it is. You just like a player, don't you? Sometimes you take to a player and sometimes you don't. I think he's always.
It's a great name, though.
It is a great
I
name.
keep wanting to say Barry Banana, but it's Bannon, not banana, so I can't.
Barry Bannon. Like, obviously Sheffield Wednesday in a complete and utter mess. It'll be amazing to see how they get on next season, because obviously they can't deal with any sort of transfers over 3 windows. They're selling off the sort of crown jewels that they've got. Their owner is not obviously very well liked at all. So if he does come, then he comes with bags and bags of experience. And a lot of other teams have said that every time they play Sheffield Wednesday, he's been key to how they play and usually key to their success. Again, it's an older player, which we sort of seem to do a lot of. But yeah, if he comes, great. He comes with experience, and I'll fully get behind him.
Liam, any more for any more?
There's not been too many more names. I think one of them linked at the same time. Someone who's recently left Sheffield Wednesday is Stuart Armstrong, formerly of Southampton as well. Another name with pretty good pedigree. Not too much else that I've seen sort of out and about, but probably a case to watch this space. It seems highly likely that we could get to some people. There's been a bit of a debate about who the second new face could be coming in. Davis Keeler-Dunn's been mentioned quite a few times. Also, Travis from Blackburn as well. There was a talk earlier in the week that interested Cool, but I think it seems to be a thing of Parky going for other clubs' captains, so I wouldn't be surprised at all to see that one come off.
Mm. Indeed. Thank you, Liam, as ever, for your updates. Is that it, or is there more?
Nope, that's it.
Good man, love it. It's time now we've got rid of that. It's time for everyone's favorite feature, which is YouTube, if you want to. And comments this week were dominated by 2 subjects. Number 1, Paul Mullin. Number 2, Andy's charity boxing match with James McLean. Most commenters on Mullin, as mentioned earlier, felt that we'd overinterpreted his words. Many people thought that, Paul was still saying he was very committed to the club and speaking very candidly. Thank you, everyone, for your comments. I thought I'd pick out one from Polar Hawk, who said, I feel like Mullin was just talking about focusing on himself, getting himself back in form. He can't pay too much attention to what people are saying and stay resentful. But I'd understand if he left to get minutes. He's done us good and will remain a legend regardless of what happens. Well said. Now, on to the talk of the town. Everyone in Wrexham is talking about the charity boxing match that is now surely inevitable between Andy Gilpin and James McLean. However, we've had a note of caution from one viewer. Bruce McFarling says, as an economist, the charity boxing match would risk eating up most of its surplus on the cost of the extended recovery. So would it raise much money for the Wrexham Miners Trust? That is an interesting thought, Bruce, that I hadn't considered. Maybe we could get Andy to sign a waiver, gents.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
Andy will be all right,
I'm
wouldn't
sure
he?
that'd be legally watertight, wouldn't it?
Yeah, be fine. Andy
He's
won't
gone
mind.
to Laos for warm weather training. Basically, this is how serious he's treating it.
Yeah.
100%. Andy Gilpin was kung fu fighting.
That's why he
It's
was
gonna be
topless.
amazing.
He was just shadow boxing in the corner. That's all he's doing non-stop. Bruce goes on to say, on the digestive biscuit scandal, lay out money for a foot pedal mute if your hands are busy with the biscuits. Another interesting thought. I
He would,
think
he would turn you to a call center operative. That's what he wants you to do right there.
I should say, Bruce, I don't think it was the mute. I think I was muted, to clarify here. I wasn't
You
being
were.
disgusting. I was just eating a digestive biscuits. That's all I did, and that apparently was unacceptable.
I think he wants you to turn your camera off during said eating of
Maybe I could
biscuits.
do that. Maybe I could turn my camera. It's food for thought. I haven't got biscuits again this week. It's bleak. But that's it for YouTube. If you want to, thank you everyone for commenting. We always appreciate your thoughts. Do we have any other business? Timothy, club shop news?
Yeah, I can't show the pictures because the person who sent me them said that he doesn't want to get into trouble. But the club shop is looking very, very, very nice indeed. Inside looks the absolute business. Lots of nice things going up everywhere. Like a little, I think there's like a little mini football pitch with like a Welcome to Wrexham thing above it. There's all sorts going in there, including the ability to print. So there's going to be like a bit of a printing corner. It's going to cost 20 quid to have your name, your number, and the badges. For 18 quid for the name and number, up to 12 letters and 2 numbers. 6 quid for just the badges, championship badges, I hasten to add. And £3 for, I think it's a shorts per number. So, yes, so there's going to be, obviously, there's been much mention over the years about the lack of shirt printing facility at the club shop. So the club shop is taking some lovely form, and it's going to be cracking when it's open. So be interesting to see who cuts the ribbon. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Not enough ribbon cut-ins for a while. So that'll be nice. Liam, Macron were confirmed as the kit sponsors again this week, weren't they? That was
Yep.
confirmed. So we'd all have to keep ordering up or breathing in.
And also, as well as that, I've heard some news on the colours. We talked before about that sort of Patagonian theme that seems to be confirmed as the third kit. Away kit, green and yellow. Talk of there being some sort of Mickey Thomas reference, which I wondered if it was the early 90s away kit.
Thank God you said Mickey Thomas. My brain went straight to Mickey Mouse, and I was like,
Yeah.
what is this? No. Right, sorry,
No,
Mickey Thomas.
Yeah, if you Google the sort of, I think it might have been 91,
Is it-
92, 92,
Yeah.
93, something like that.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, and it's a really tidy kit. So if it looks anything like that, we'll all be laughing. Also went under the radar slightly, but Ryan Reynolds was at an event in Cannes with some people from United Airlines, and they just let it slip that they're continuing their sponsorship. So we pretty much know what we're going to see badges wise on the shirts now. It's just a case of waiting to see when they're released. But you do wonder if that might be to coincide with the new shop opening. Would make perfect sense, I would imagine. The Macron deal, actually, something to mention on that is they've said that there's basically going to be a lot more ability for international fans to get hold of shirts without having to order, get them delivered from Wales, essentially. So retailers globally now will be able to stock our shirts. So fingers crossed for our friends overseas. As the amount of times I see stuff on X/Twitter, like, where's my shirt, or my shirt's arrived, but I've just been charged X amount for it to come into the country. So hopefully that'll iron out some of those problems.
XXXL amount. So it should be about that. I know there's been a lot of conjecture about sizes, and it is true because all 3 shirts last season differed in size for me personally. I would not be surprised to see Ryan and Rob get some of their castmates like, Danny DeVito and stuff to try on different size shirts just to make a bit of take the sting out of it a little bit. If you don't, that's a great idea. You should take it. 10% commission, please, would be great.
What size is Danny DeVito wearing?
Depends what shirt he goes for. I mean, if you went for last season's black shirt, I gotta be careful now. I don't want to be throwing shade at Danny DeVito, do I? This is a dangerous.
Oh.
No, I'm.
Yeah, let's move on. I'm sorry I asked.
No, I'm not gonna. No.
That's royalty you're dissing there.
Yeah, well, I
wasn't dissing. He's been in a Wrexham shirt, hasn't he? He's worn one, so I thought he looked. Yeah, I'm sure you didn't. He wear one when he went to that bloody crazy.
Oh yeah,
the
thingamajiggy. Yeah.
Top guy looks great
Cosm.
in a Wrexham shirt.
Cosm.
Yes, that's the one. One last update before we go is on long-time listener and friend of the pod, Jonah Devitt, Tim.
Yeah, Jonah, however
Jonah, sorry,
Jonah,
Jonah.
I think. He's obviously approaching a serious fundraising event, the Grand Depart Classic, 27th to 29th of June, for prostate cancer UK. So basically, in short, Jonah's a massive Wrexham fan, kitchen manager and spoons, cycling nerd. I'm reading from his blog on his Just Giving thing, by the way. But yeah, he's taking part in this massive bike ride, 115 miles, 185k, 115 miles bike ride. Whilst he's an amateur cyclist, he by no means has ever done a challenge of this nature, but he's doing it in support of prostate cancer care, in memory of his dad. His dad passed. Prostate cancer affects 1 in 8 men. That's quite a big deal, So we will put Jonah's link to his Just Giving in the thingy in the comments. So please go and check that out. Jonah, he has exceeded the target, but that should not stop you from giving, because the more the merrier. The more money that we've got, the more it can go to the charity, the more difference can be made. So go and support Jonah Devitt in his mammoth cycle ride. That's a lot of saddle ass. If anything, give some money to save his cheeks. He's going to need.
He's going to need a lot of Vaseline and Savlon afterwards.
It's going to hurt. It's going to hurt. So it's easy for us to reel off all these charity ventures and stuff. But when you put a bit of perspective into it, you're thinking, Jesus, that's a long slog. That. So fair play to him. Good luck with his challenge.
Very unlike Andy's charity thing, which will be over very quickly.
7 seconds, I reckon.
But no less intense for his bumhole.
Can you imagine if he landed a blow on Maka? Can you imagine it?
I couldn't imagine.
He start apologising, wouldn't he?
The place would go off wherever we were. But I wouldn't want to see what happened next if that happened. Thank you, everyone, for listening. We really appreciate it. We will be back in the week with more content for you, as well as next weekend. And do remember, please, to subscribe and keep listening. Goodbye.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
Wrexham,